Trop d'égo sont cadeaux, j'ai l'envie de baby, I love you so. Cause when I put down, I love you lift me up. Baby, you're the love of my life, oh, Dilys Sillah jamais. Je peux mourir pour toi, Dilys Sillah jamais. Allez, mon amour, allez, allez. Que quoi qu'il arrive, tu resteras mon bébé, mon bébé. Bébé, bébé, que quoi qu'il arrive, tu resteras mon bébé, bébé, bébé. Sans vouloir nous séparer, chercher à nous garder. Oh, les sorciers, laissez-nous respirer. You with the top, body, body. Stop, cause my baby did for me. Il essaiera jamais. Tu veux mourir pour toi, il essaiera jamais. Allez, mon amour, allez, allez. Quoi qu'il arrive, tu resteras mon bébé, mon bébé, bébé, bébé. Et quoi qu'il arrive, tu resteras mon bébé, bébé, bébé. Tant I see all my baby, let me love you, the amor, let me love you. Allez, mon amour, allez, allez, allez. Tu seras mon bébé, bébé, bébé. Et quoi qu'il arrive, tu resteras mon bébé, bébé, bébé. Et quoi qu'il arrive, tu resteras mon bébé, bébé, bébé.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Let's Give It a Voice with Dilys Sillah. Thank you so much for honoring our invite today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And how was your day?
It's been good. I haven't had a lot of sleep, but I'm awake. I'm here. Yeah.
And we can hear you bright and clear. So, our topic of discussion today
Mm.
is living life after loss. So, losing a loved one is usually a life altering experience. Just the thought of it usually is paralyzing and also frightening. Then, not to think of the real experience. When this happens, we usually feel like we will never find happiness again. And we always feel like we'll never find a fulfilled life after we've lost a loved one. But hey, there is certainly life after death. And
Absolutely.
definitely there's happiness after loss. However, not everyone is capable of finding this happiness. Not everyone is capable of living this fulfilled life after the loss of a loved one. So, hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Let's Give It a Voice with our special guest speaker today, Dilys Sillah, and with myself, the host, AC Mbeng, here at the Voice of Hope Media. So we are live today on our page, The Voice of Hope Media, on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. This is a little bit unusual because we normally have our shows on Saturdays, but with a special guest like the one we have today,
Oh,
we always have to
thank
we always have to do everything possible to accommodate everyone. So thank you everyone for giving up your activities or whatever thing you've been doing to watch this show today. Many have suffered one form of loss or the other. It may be the loss of a loved one, it may be the loss of a job, it may be the loss of a relationship, and what have you. But at the end of it, life still has to go on. It's hard.
you.
Sometimes it seems like a very difficult statement to make that
Mm,
life has to go on. Definitely life has to go on because when you who has suffered the you who have suffered the loss, you feel like your life is stuck in one place. But every other person's life goes on. Everybody carries on as if nothing happened. So which means at the end of the day, we have to look for a way to make that life go on with the grief. So we have our special guest today, like I've said. Her name is Dilys Sillah. She's going to introduce herself. But just before then, today we are talking about life after loss. Basically, it is finding that happiness, living that fulfilled life after the loss of a loved one. So in our discussion today, we are going to talk a little bit about what true happiness is and if it is the same for everyone. We are going to touch a little bit also on the process of grief, and from what Dilys will be discussing today, she will also mention what learning to live again means after we've lost a loved one. And then when a loss happens, it's usually difficult to let go of the past, but at some point we have to let go. But Dilys is going to tell us what do we do to let go of the past and look towards the future while still being happy. And she will also talk to us about some of the things that happened during her grieving period that maybe she didn't like, and how she's adjusted, or how she made everyone adjust, how she made everyone adjust around her grief. I know I was watching one of her shows and she said at some point she had to dictate who had to attend the funeral, because at a certain point you are the bereaved, so you really have to decide what is it that makes you happy, since no two people grieve the same. So without talking much, I will pass the mic to you, Dilys, for you to introduce yourself, and then we continue. But once more, thank you for honoring our invite today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, especially when I'm asked to speak about this particular topic, because it's such a difficult thing for people to relate to. And as you said, it's a very unique experience when somebody goes through loss. So I will quickly introduce myself. So my name is Dilys Sillah. I'm a life coach. I am a public speaker. I'm the best-selling author of the book Not This Widow, which actually details my story on grief and, my journey and, how I dealt with it. So the book is divided kind of into two. So it's part memoir, which tells of my life. And then the second part is how do we deal with grief effectively. And I speak about the fact that grief is a very unique experience. It's as unique as our DNA, and that no two people grieve the same. And being able to, grieve authentically. So that is what the book is about. I'm also a host of my own show on Facebook called Speak with Dilys, which airs every Sunday at 8 p.m. I would say GMT, but our clocks are changing because I'm in London. So our clocks are changing to British summertime. So that's 8 o'clock every Sunday. And I'm doing a launch of the live show in London on the 22nd of April. So that's essentially what I do. I did used to run a charity called Who Will Hear My Cry, raising awareness on rape, child abuse, and domestic violence. So essentially, most of the work that I do is centered around speaking up for other people. So when I lost my husband and I became aware of the treatment of widows in certain communities, I began to lend my voice to that group of people as well, because I feel that it was important to be able to do so. So that's who Dilys Sillah is in a nutshell. I can't hear you, my love. I think the sound.
Oh, yeah, I was muted.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. Talking about the things that you do on a daily basis, what is your motivation? What is it that pushes you? Because when I watch your show, and even when it's getting to an end, I'm still glued onto it. What is that thing? There must be something that motivates you. Amen.
What motivates me, God.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates me is having an understanding of my calling and of the gifts that I have, and finally coming to a place where I know what they should be used for. And because I now recognize and I've caught the revelation that I am a servant to serve the people emotionally, that's what motivates me.
Wow. That's powerful. Having an understanding of your calling and
Yeah.
knowing that you have to serve people. That's really powerful. And what to you in a few words, what's true happiness? Can everyone achieve some level of true happiness?
I think there are two things. Can everybody reach true happiness? Everybody has the potential to, but I think there's a distinct difference between joy and happiness. Happiness is in your flesh, joy is in your spirit.
Okay.
So there is a difference there. I think everybody can achieve it, but one is far better than the other.
Which one is better? Is it joy? Because joy is in the spirit.
Joy is in the spirit. Because if you're feeling joyful in the spirit, it can translate.
To the
If you're
flesh.
feeling happy, you see the difference with joy is not dependent on an event. You can be joyful when you're going through hell, but your spirit is joyful because your spirit has a hope and an expectation that the situation will turn around. Happiness is when the situation has turned around.
Okay.
Joy is synonymous with your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is synonymous with the evidence.
Yeah.
Happiness has to see. Joy just has to know. So there is a difference between the two.
Okay. Well, that's something new today. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Like I always say on this show, that each time you watch this show, you learn, you unlearn, and then you relearn at least one thing. And when you are watching the show, do not worry about how many people are watching with you. What you have to be worried about is what you are going to learn, what you are going to take away from watching the Voice of Hope Media during our Let's Give It a Voice episode. Because here at the Voice of Hope Media, we give a voice to those issues often regarded as taboo, as emotional, as too sensitive to talk about in public, to open up about them. But at the same time, we need to give a voice to these issues, because when we give a voice to them, they also help us to heal ourselves. They help to heal others, and also to empower every other person to be able to open the conversation around these so-called taboo topics, which are actually issues happening to everyone out there. So you are welcome. And if you're watching on Facebook, you share, invite your friends to watch with us, because there's a lot we have to learn from this episode today. I know previous shows we've had lots of talks on grief, but as Dilly said, grief is a unique experience. No people can grieve the same. And she specified that grief is as unique as our DNAs. And I always say as well that grief is as unique as our fingerprints.
Mhm.
So talking about grief, let's go down to the grief process. How did you go through that?
I was able to go through my process because I made a very conscious decision very early on that I was going to do it my way.
Okay.
I didn't know that I would have to make that decision because I just assumed that if you're grieving, you're allowed to grieve how you need to grieve.
Yeah.
Until I was informed that culturally I couldn't do X, or I couldn't do Y, or I was
Wow.
expected to do this, or I was expected to do that. And I'm like, stop, hold up, wait a minute. I can't fulfill that role when I'm going through something as devastating as what I'm going through. So I decided very quickly that I'm going to grieve my way. I was told, that when visitors come to the house, I shouldn't speak in a particular way. I was told I shouldn't let people know this. When I wanted to get security for my husband's funeral, I was told, oh, no, you shouldn't do that because people are going to think this. I thought, enough already. I don't really care what people think because I'm the only person that has been, had this burden bestowed upon me. So I don't have the time, the patience, or the inclination to have to consider the emotions of people who aren't going through what I'm going through. And so from that point, I just thought, stop. So culturally, where I'm from, for example, the widow doesn't speak. People or a person will speak on your behalf. And what then happens is you lose your voice. And I was thinking, I am articulate enough to state my own case or my own feelings on whatever issue arises. I don't want somebody to speak on my behalf who isn't conveying my heart. So it got to a certain point where I decided I'm going to speak for myself. From today, I speak for myself. I was very corpus mentis. There was nothing wrong with my brain. But there was this comment that was made, you don't know what you're saying. You're grieving. I found it exceptionally patronizing. I said, I lost a husband, not my mind. I'm perfectly capable and present and able to state whatever it is I need, whatever it is I feel, or whatever it is that I want. So I was able to grieve. And why, in the book called Not This Widow, why I made particular reference to that was because I think it was important that people understood that you don't just write somebody off because they're grieving. We already feel disempowered because we face this colossal loss. So to take our voices from us as well, I just thought, no, that's not something that I was prepared to allow to happen.
Amazing. Did you ever experience the because normally when they talk about stages of grief or the process of grief, we that there's that common idea that you have to go through a linear pattern: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and stuff. Did you ever have to experience all of those?
For the stages, I didn't go through all the stages. Like, for example, I never went through a stage of anger. I was never angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I never went through denial either. Oh, trust me, for me, it hit me. what I went through, denial couldn't even come into it.
Okay.
There was no bargaining. There was nothing like that. So again, it just speaks of the uniqueness of the experience. I didn't go through that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't go through all the stages. I went through some of the stages,
Mm-hmm.
and not in the same order.
Yeah. Is it that because you subconsciously you were already or is it subconsciously or psychologically prepared, or
No, I
it
wasn't.
had taken a while that you were already like, okay, I'm ready for any eventualities?
No, my husband's passing was sudden.
Okay.
I was so not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I was so not prepared.
Okay.
I mean, the night before, we sat down in the living room having a full-blown conversation and talking about life and all sorts of stuff. I did not know the following morning I would be widowed. I was so not prepared. If there was a one thing that I didn't think would happen was for me to lose my husband, because a time where he had fallen ill some years back, where I thought if anything would go wrong would have been then, what happened was completely unexpected. It knocked me for six.
Wow.
I wasn't, and I don't know if, I think the only time you can be semi-prepared is if the person is terminally ill. But even then, I don't think that people are prepared sometimes for the final, because death is final. There's no going back. It's done.
Yeah.
It's that realization so overwhelming.
Yeah, that's perfectly true. I don't think somebody can really be 100% prepared for someone's death. It's because it's a lifelong loss, isn't it? It's not something where the person is going for a journey to come back after a few years. But wow, that's that's
Yeah.
amazing. So how did you go through all of this? How did you learn to live again? How have you been able, or how were you able to get past those early days of grieving? Just tell us, how did you learn to live again, and not knowing that you won't be able to see him, or you turn around, you have this interesting thing you want to say to him and laugh, but you turn around and he's not.
I think, there's so many questions in there. Let me see where I'm going to start.
Okay, in how did you learn to live again?
I think where I will start from, being a woman of faith, again, people make a lot of assumptions. I was told, play worship songs, you will feel better. No, darling. If there was a one thing that my soul despised, was music of any kind. I couldn't listen to music for about 5 months. It put me in a very, very, very bad place. You see what I'm saying about the uniqueness of how people grieve? Worship songs, that was like, that one, you might as well just take me to the cemetery and bury me with my husband, because the level of depression that it would put me in was something else. I wasn't able to pray for about a year. I was never angry, but I couldn't believe that God would allow this to happen to me.
Yeah.
Though I was never angry. I'm just like, in fact, I think what I would offer is, how could you let them do this to me? But at the same time, I was never under any illusion that there were many people praying for me. I felt it. I knew it. I just knew it.
Okay.
And I mean, perfect strangers. There were so many men. Look, my husband passed away over 3 years ago now. Up till today, I kid you not, I am still finding messages on my WhatsApp and in different places, messages of condolences.
Wow.
Up till today.
Yeah, 3 years is not a very long time, actually.
No, but I mean, going back then, there were hundreds of thousands of messages. I'm still going through them. So I knew that there were many people that were willing me and praying for me to get myself back together.
Okay.
I work as a life coach, and I'm a pretty good one, actually.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I helped myself for as long as I was able. And then I got professional help, especially when I started writing the book, because the book did physically make me ill. It was very traumatic, having to relive the trauma time and time again, even when I finished writing the book and it had to go to the publishers and I had to proofread and having to read, because at this point, I know how the story's going to end. There was no happily ever after. I know what the end was going to be. So it was very, very traumatic for me. So I got a counselor.
Okay.
I got a counselor. I interviewed the person that I wanted, because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, counseling is rubbish, coaching doesn't work, psychotherapy's crap. It's not. You have to understand that you are employed, not the other way around. And so therefore you speak to individual people and you see who you fit with. Because if you're not able to find that fit, you can't be honest and you can't be transparent, and that person therefore cannot help you. So I interviewed a few people. I had this lady who was quite similar to me, no nonsense, very straightforward, strong, tough. I thought that's what I need. I didn't need the other lady that I saw that was, oh, love, oh, and then your husband passed away. That must be very painful for you. I was like, kill me already. I was done. I didn't have her.
I think at that point you no longer need some sort of sympathy.
It wasn't that I didn't want sympathy, but I didn't want it in that way.
Okay.
My personality type wouldn't, not like that. I don't like that. I don't like to be spoken to in a way that further compounds my pain, even though it's not intentional. She was a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Or makes me think, yeah, actually, my life really is bad. I don't want to feel like that.
Yeah.
So, oh, that must be really terrible for you. Well, yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. I think we we are going to go to we are going to come back to a question. There's a question here that's going to let us know what are some of the things that people said to you.
Oh,
They meant well, but
oh,
all those things came the wrong way. We are still
I
going
got a
to
whole
go there.
Facebook Live on this one.
But
So
yeah, let, let's continue. Everyone, including children, friends, and family, obviously grieve differently. How did you support? Um, how did they support you, and how did you, in return, support them, especially your children?
let me tell you, it was the most painful thing
Mm-hmm.
watching my children grieve.
Yeah,
I could be having a relatively good day and I would see my kids crying. It took a long time for me to come to a place where I wasn't thrown into that pit of depression because of what I'm witnessing my children go through.
yeah,
I mean, my son's a big boy. With my daughter, I put her in counseling. She didn't want the counseling. I said, you're having it. I don't want to talk about it. I said, that's why you're having it. So but again, I researched. I looked at the personality type of my daughter.
mm-hmm.
She's like her father. She is a talker, but not in that context.
Yeah,
And I knew that having my daughter in a conventional counseling or coaching session was not going to work.
mm-hmm.
The therapist is sat in a chair, she sat in a chair, and so how are you feeling today? Fine. I knew how it was going to go. I'm a therapist myself, so I knew that wasn't going to work. So I found an amazing woman, and she uses play, she uses games, she uses music, she uses art to have a conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved her. So that's how I supported her. With my son, it was more difficult
Mm-hmm.
because he became very angry about a lot of different things.
Okay.
And therefore, even when I suggested counseling, it was like, oh, I've not had counseling. You guys have had counseling, but then I'm not going to sit in front of a stranger that doesn't even like me. And I said, sweetheart, we don't employ counselors because they're our friends. We employ counselors because they can help. I said, I couldn't give a toss if the person hated my guts. I am paying you to get me better. But you, as an adult male, have to take control of that. When you're obviously, my son was in his 20s. I couldn't force him to have. Whereas with my daughter, in all intents and purposes, I said,
Yeah.
and if you don't like it, then we can stop. But you are going to try it and then say no. So that's how I supported, my kids. With me, myself, as I said, I had therapy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's brilliant. Yeah, I think sometimes during the grieving process, one can actually forget, especially the children, that they also grieve in their own way. So if you're watching, just be mindful that if you are grieving, know that the kids are also struggling
Oh
as
yeah.
well, and they also need some form of support. So you seem to have worked really well on self-development and more. Tell us, I know you've already mentioned some of them, like you sought counseling,
Yeah.
even in writing your book. I think that was another form of therapy as
It was.
well.
No, a
Yeah.
lot of people think it was therapeutic. It was terrible. It made me ill.
Mm-hmm.
The, the,
Okay.
the, my book was not cathartic at all.
Mm-hmm.
It made me physically sick, stomach cramps. My cycle was all over the place. It was very bad for me.
Yeah.
But I'm
Do you
so determined to write it though.
do you actually go back to do you usually go back and read your
No,
book?
I would
Because
never.
because I find it difficult going back and reading my book.
I would
I
never
thought
read.
I thought it was funny, or it was weird for me. There are some chapters I literally tiptoe around them. I like I open
Yeah.
each page and I just look at them. I don't want to read again. So that's normal.
Yeah. No, it's normal. I was so when I wrote the book and it went to the publishers and then there was a technical hitch and I had to read it again. I was so annoyed, and I was
Mhm,
annoyed because I had gone. It was our first Christmas because I wanted to write my book
mhm.
not just in memory of my late husband, but to honor him as well. So
Yeah.
I had the book published exactly 1 year to the day that he passed away.
Wow.
However, I took myself away for Christmas with my daughter. I couldn't face the first Christmas being in the house. I couldn't. Um, so that was supposed to be a time of de-stressing and what have you. But having to proofread the book twice, again, got the anxiety going. So no, I wouldn't. I have no need to read the book again. No.
That's interesting. So now with the loss, you've done quite a lot. And how have you recreated your life without your husband, just with your kids? I mean, having to call yourself a single mom, how did it feel the first time?
I don't know when I first referred to myself as a single mother. Um, I think I've only done that very recently. I think I was doing a program actually, and I was trying to make a point.
Yeah. I think that was the first time I heard.
Yeah, because I never really refer to myself as that. The same way I never refer to myself as a widow. I often will say I was widowed because for me, it's not a title that I choose to wear.
Thank you.
Hence, the book was not this widow.
Mm,
You may be other widows, but not this one.
not
I
this
was
one. Yeah.
widowed. It was an event that happened in my life. It does not
Hmm.
define me. It doesn't speak of who I am.
Hmm.
It doesn't speak of who I will be. It's
Yeah.
something to me.
Okay.
And I see myself as being complete, even as a single parent. So, yeah, I just, that's just how I've seen myself, really.
That's interesting. And it tell us a little bit more about the book, where people can get it if anyone is interested in
Oh, you can get
reading
the
the
book off
book. Yeah.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, a lot of the online bookstores. The book is there. So if you just type in "Not This Widow," it will pop up in different places where you can get it. But definitely, you can get it on Amazon.
Okay. How much does it cost? Not sure.
Oh
I've
God,
heard
I
it
think
before.
the hardback was $14.99, and then the normal copy was, oh, I think it was around $9.99. I can't remember because on Amazon, what they do is they change the prices. So I'd have to go on there. Yeah,
Yeah, prices are being changed
yeah.
on Amazon. During your grieving period, was it interrupted at any one point?
In what way?
Did you feel like there was a particular period where you never had the chance to grieve? Something happened, and
In the very beginning,
mhm,
in the very beginning, when people started their nonsensical foolishness,
mm,
yes, because my children complained. They said, "Mum, you're being treated so badly. We're not able to grieve." That's when I said, "Enough already." That's when I said, "You know what? This ain't happening, that ain't happening, and that ain't happening. I'm done." That's when
mhm,
I decided that it was time for me to take control.
mhm,
Otherwise, things would control me. And I don't like being controlled.
mhm.
So that's when I put my foot down. And I thought, for the sake of my children, I cannot allow myself to continue to be disregarded and disrespected by anybody. Um, so yes, I would say it would be in the very beginning where I felt that my grieving process, yeah, was interrupted. But then after I called time on all the interruptions, I could really just begin that journey.
Okay, that's good. You also mentioned that there were people were literally suggesting the type of songs or gospel songs that you
Oh,
could listen to. Were there things that they said that you were like, this is not appropriate for a grieving
you asked
person?
me a question I just realized I didn't answer. You asked me the question about, was there any phrase that people used that I didn't like?
Yeah, it's the question which I'm asking because I had
Yeah.
to come back to it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that phrase was, "It is well." I hated it. I hate it. And I will forever hate it.
Why?
Because it's meaningless. I'll tell you why. It's meaningless. It is not your place to tell me that it is well. And you don't understand the phrase. It's a cliche that every Christian that's too lazy to find something meaningful to say will just tell you it is well. And it got to a place, I found it so offensive. I've just lost my husband unexpectedly in my 40s. And you are telling me it is well? It got to a place where I asked people, explain to me what is well about me being widowed at 47. Explain. Not one person was able to articulate that phrase. I even did a Facebook Live on it,
Yes.
breaking it down, what it is well means, why it was said, the context in which it was said. That it is well was said by the Shulamite woman when she lost her son. And the prophet asked her how she was. She said, it is well, to encourage herself. The prophet never told her it is well. When the song was written, it is well with my soul, not
Mm-hmm.
your soul. Those were words that were spoken for somebody to encourage themselves, like to say, it's okay, you can do it, you can do it. They were words of encouragement to self. So when you come and tell me, whom you've just found out that my husband has died unexpectedly, and you tell me it is well, what is well? What is well? So people know, if you value your life, don't tell me that. And I've encouraged other people, don't say that to somebody who is grieving. It hurts and it's offensive. And it was only when I did my live that so many people popped up and said, oh my God, I hated that phrase, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to say it. I'm like, well, I've said it for you. Because for me, being told it is well was like somebody ripped my skin off. It made me feel like you were diminishing my pain, or you were telling me that it wasn't that bad, you'll get over it. And I found that particularly offensive. I found it disrespectful to me, and equally as disrespectful to my husband's memory. So
Yeah.
I felt very strongly about it, you
Were
know.
you at one point told that, oh, you are still quite young and there's still possibilities of you getting married again? Because I
Yeah.
know, yeah, I know
Even
those have been said.
at my husband's Thanksgiving service,
Mm-hmm.
a few days later after funeral, the message that was preached in church, that's my old church, was about, was it Ruth that was getting married again?
Oh my God.
And then when the service was done, this woman comes up to me, and she goes, I see you getting married to a white man. I wanted to punch her. I thought, you disrespect innocent goats.
She was a prophet. She was
She ain't a
prophesying.
prophet. She was prophesying. She wasn't prophesying. She was prophesying. I'm a prophet. You weren't no prophet. Because if you're a prophet, and you even if you are,
Mm-hmm.
use some wisdom, have some decorum, and have some self-respect. This is my husband's memorial. He had been buried. We buried him on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 days later, this is the nonsense you're coming to tell me. You need to check yourself.
Wow.
Oh, I went through some nonsense. I really did.
uh, that's quite interesting. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure you must have learned quite a lot so far. And yeah, those who are used to watching shows here at the Voice of Hope Media, this will probably be, because it's on a Friday, it's going to be one of the shortest shows we've ever had. But if you are interested in knowing more about Dilys, she's launching her talk show in London on the 22nd of April. And if you want to know more, you get in touch with her, then she'll give you more information of the location and how to contact her. Just one, okay. 1 second, I have, okay. That's fine. And
I can hear a little person. Is that a
uh-huh.
child?
Yeah, that's Professor Lesra. It's my son.
Okay. I thought I could hear a little
Yeah.
person in the background.
Yeah, we call him Professor, and you get to know more why he's called Professor
Wonderful.
from my
God bless
timeline.
him.
Uh-huh. So I was just saying that if you would like to know more about Dilys, you get in touch with her on Facebook, or maybe you can actually tell us where how people can contact you and to know more about your the launching of your show on the 22nd of April at the end of the show. So far we've been talking about living life after loss. That's being able to live a happy and a fulfilled life after the loss of a loved one. We've
Mhm.
also talked about how you went through your grieving process, how you learned to live again, seeking help for yourself, seeking help for your children, and knowing that there's that happiness is always there, and finding joy as well, and that there's a possibility of being happy again
Uh,
and living a fulfilled life after the loss of a loved one. So, just getting to the end of our show, I know a few people are watching and they'll really be interested in knowing, because not everyone is capable, not everyone is strong enough to live that fulfilled life or that happy life, or even to be able to live again after the loss of a loved one. What encouraging words will you give them? Words of hope, words of encouragement, or what can they do? Maybe some of them, some ladies are still feeling lost now, even after so many years of losing their spouses. What can you tell them?
I mean, I really would encourage people. I would encourage anybody who has faced any loss to get professional help. I am
Yeah,
actually astounded as to why so many people walk this journey on their own.
yeah,
It baffles me because, as strong as I am supposed to be, I went and got
mhm,
help.
yeah,
And what would have taken me maybe a year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to figure out, I figured out quickly because I made sure that I took that responsibility to have space created for me to make sense of what I was going through. The
mhm,
problem that we have and why so many people are challenged is because we become religious about certain things. You see, this is why I don't like that phrase, it is well. It shuts you down. It doesn't
yeah,
allow you to be real. It doesn't allow you to express yourself because the person told you it is well. So, how do you challenge that by saying, well, actually, I feel really depressed. Actually, I'm suffering from anxiety attack. Actually, I feel lonely. Actually, I feel sexual. All those things that you are not allowed to speak about, especially as a woman who has lost her. So it becomes, in a way, a weapon that is used against your progress in being able to have an understanding of what you've gone through, but
mhm,
also it acts as a hindrance for you to be able to move forward with your life because you're stuck. You've got all these things going on here that you can't express and tell anyone, and
yeah.
yet you're going through. And
I
then you have,
think uh, I think many are afraid of kind of like becoming the enemy in the community because she grieves too much. Does she think she's the
I
only
would
one who has
say
experienced
the
some form of
problem
grief?
that we have then
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
people put a time limit on how long you are permitted to grieve
yeah.
for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a right anybody has. You decide how long you need. So there are so many different things that makes it hard
Mm-hmm.
for people to be able to move forward. Like I said, probably the one time in your life should be the most selfish. It should be all about you. Because if you don't do that, whilst everybody is living their merry life, I've spoken to women who lost their husbands 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They've never dated since. There is no, they don't even look their age. They've aged 10 years because they are stuck in that place of grieving and worrying about what everybody else will say. Because if they date somebody a year, 2 years afterwards, then it means they must have killed their husbands. Yes, I went through all that nonsense as well. So my husband passed away. Oh, you killed him. That's when I realized that every African woman is a murderer. Every widow is a murderer because no African man can just die. Someone killed him, even if it was a car accident.
Yeah.
So there are all those things that come into play where we're made to feel guilty. And I refuse to feel guilty. And I think for women that want to live their life, you
Mm-hmm.
have to come to an understanding that this is just the one life you get. There is
Yeah.
no dress rehearsal. This is it. So if you want to spend 5 prove to the world that you're so holy, then fine. If you want to grieve for 5 years, then that's fine too. But make sure it's what you want. I said to everybody, I mean, this is how disempowering this process can be. I remember posting something on my Facebook. I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do remember reading from a few people was nobody is fit to walk in Eddie's shoes. I had to stop them right there. Hold up, wait a minute. Eddie's shoes are his shoes. Any man I choose to date, his shoes are his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But I will not disrespect any man that I would date now as somehow saying you are worthy because you fit into my late husband's shoes.
Oh,
They
no.
will be 2 completely different people
Mm-hmm.
serving 2 completely different purposes in my life. And so therefore, I will not compare my late husband to anybody that I would choose to be with because it will be my choice.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like they say, he who wears the shoes knows where it
Right.
hurts.
But
And
mm,
yeah, and until that person tells you exactly where it hurts, you'll never know. And
absolutely.
sometimes you can still wear the shoe and it will hurt somewhere else.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, because grief is unique, as
Absolutely.
unique as our DNA. So your final words will be to tell us about your event, how people can
Sure.
book to attend your event, and how they can contact you via Facebook or any other means. And then we'll end the show with the final word for the day.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity of telling
Yeah.
people about the event. So the show Speak with Dilys, it airs every Sunday on Facebook on the Dilys Sillah fan page at 8 o'clock in the evening, and we talk about everything and anything. From this week's show on Sunday, though it's Mothering Sunday, ironically, it's about mothers who don't love their daughters. Last week we spoke about sons who are rejected by their mothers. We have very real conversations that other people may not want to have because it's just not the right thing to speak about because we can't get our head around it. So with the show, I'm now going to be launching it on the 22nd of April on at a place called the Leonardo Royal Hotel in St. Paul's. Now you can get tickets from Eventbrite, or you can go to dilyssillah.com, or you can send me an inbox on Facebook or Instagram if you kind of get lost. But dilyssillah.com in order for you to get your that's okay. In order for you to get your tickets. Tickets are $49.99 for VIP, where
Yeah.
your evening will start at 6:30. You have a private networking party, something with bubbles in it on arrival. You get premium seating, so that's for the VIPs, and then $19.99 are for our normal gold ticket holders whose evening starts at 7:30. There'll be music, comedy, great entertainment, and a conversation that we'll have on the evening. So that's what will be happening on the Speak Dilys live launch in London.
All right. So thank you so much for that, and it was a pleasure having you on
And
our show today. So on that day, will you be having guest speakers, or are you going to be the main speaker
I'll be the main speaker. So
for
we're
the day?
going to have a Speak with Dilys show like you would have,
Mhm.
any other talk show, but it's just going to be live. So people will be past the mic to give their opinions and stuff. So
Mhm.
really lovely. And just to say, I am looking for sponsors as well. If anybody wants to, support the show, they're quite welcome to do so. They can contact me again on dilyssillah.com or via my social media handles.
All right, that's fine. Thank you so much,
Thank
everyone, for watching. I do appreciate you all. Just a quick okay, Akong Nui, you were watching and you said hello, ladies. Thank you so much for joining in. We had someone who sent a message, Ramsey. He said, I like to join this program live video. I like to contribute on this program. unfortunately, if you have to contribute on the program, you have to get in touch, so we make a program for you to be part, to be a guest on the show. You can join live on the show while the show is still going on. So I'll be looking out for your message on Messenger. I assume maybe he had something to say and he was so eager to join
Yeah,
live.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't do it that way. So we'll have to book an appointment for you to have a show with us on a one-on-one basis. And Aisha Ankra was also watching. Thank you so much, everyone, for
Aisha,
joining in. Yeah, the live video will always be here on our page, The Voice of Hope Media. Thank you, Akong, and thank you for yes, she actually said she likes the frank talk. She
excellent.
likes
Oh,
the frank
you'll always get
open.
frank talk. It's
Yes,
it's
trust
my
Dilly.
I agree with that.
She says it as it is, and I
Yeah.
can't, if you're not careful, next week she will speak in Cameroon Pidgin. So the
Ah,
last week
no,
she spoke
Sierra Leone,
Sierra Leone Pidgin.
Sierra Leone. Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure having
Thank
you, and this has been the Voice of Hope Media. We give a voice to living life after loss, being able to live a happy and a fulfilled life after the loss of a loved one. So I hope you learned something new today, and if you did, you share. If you would like to become to be a guest speaker on the show, get in touch. But as of next week is going to be April, which is Autism Awareness Month. So all our discussions during April will be about autism. And it will be everything autism. But tomorrow, because we are rounding up, there have been lots of awareness days in March, including bipolar awareness day, which is going to be, I think it's on the 30th of March. So tomorrow we are also going to have a show here with guest speakers all the way from Kenya, and they will be talking about bipolar disorder, eliminating stigma, social stigma, and also helping people to understand what bipolar is all about and how they can live their lives happily, even with a mental health problem. So we will be seeing you again tomorrow. And then next week, Saturday, the 2nd of April, is World Autism Acceptance Day. So we will be having a World Autism Acceptance Day virtual community outreach program from that day for the whole of April. So we are looking forward to having all of you join in and let's talk about autism, because I normally say what you think is none of your business today may come knocking at your door tomorrow. So awareness is necessary, acceptance is necessary, and we also encourage love, understanding, acceptance, and inclusion for everyone affected by autism and any form of disability or mental health issue. So it's been Asim Beng, your host today, and our guest speaker was Dilys Sillah. So I guess we will be seeing you again, maybe just before your event in
Sure.
April, or we will do an advert for you on the
That would be
show
lovely.
as well, just before the event. But it's been a pleasure
Thank you. I
having you
loved it.
today.
Thank you so much.
You're
God bless.
welcome. And
Thanks.
like we always say, stay tuned, stay blessed, and we hope you've unlearned, and you are going to
Yeah.
relearn something from this show today. So have a good evening and happy weekend, everyone. It's Ace in Bang.
Thank you.